My name is Corrine Briggs, and I'm the Assistant Director of Alumni Giving and Engagement in the Alumni Office, working with the 15 youngest classes. And I want to thank you all for joining us today on this beautiful day. Some of you traveling far distances, California, Japan, and so forth. So we're so happy to have you all back on campus today. And I want to say thank you, a special thank you to our planning committee who helped put together today from our class of 2020 alums. I'm thrilled to welcome you all back to campus, especially the class of 2020, who are now alumni, which is so exciting. We've missed having you here and know you're doing great things in the world, but it's good to have you all back. I need to just make a quick programming note that your senior class dean, Krista Talbot Saifu, is unfortunately unable to join today after all, but she does send her best wishes to everyone. Now I want to kick off this day of reconnecting, reminiscing, celebrating all of you, the class of 2020, and it's my great pleasure to introduce Head of School, Bob Hill.
Hey everyone, it is so good to see you all back here. 2.5 years ago, we said we'd make sure to get you back and do something special. And here we are, and it's up to you to make it that way. But we've got the tent, we've got things ready for you. I heard last night might have been a little too much fun for some of you out there, but keep those dark glasses on, and I'm looking at your table. Couldn't resist that. It's great to have you here. Family and friends and faculty, welcome. It's been delayed, but we are so happy to have you back. And who among us could have predicted back in March of your senior year that it would take until now for us to gather in person? I reread my virtually delivered commencement remarks from 2 years ago. They were presented on a live stream, or maybe it was a pre-taped ceremony. I don't remember. But it was back then, and it was all a blur. Did you think then that you would be the first generation of students to embark on Zoom classes and then pioneer everything else we've taken for granted now? I surely didn't. I did point out to you, no reason you should recall this, that you were and still are the only class in the 181st year of our history to have your graduation canceled, essentially. Right, canceled due to historical events. You'll remember this. I actually did the research, and Williston's graduation went forth during the Civil War, during World War I, during the Korean War, during World War II, during the unrest of the 70s, when schools like Boston University actually canceled graduations. And yet we went on, so you guys are famous for doing that. Rereading my comments from your virtual commencement, I was struck by how uncertain we all were about the pandemic's trajectory. And the gist of my remarks centered on the idea that you were making history, that we were all in the midst of an inflection point, and that perspective really hasn't changed any. I'll be honest though, it's a little weird standing in front of you right now, a group of college kids. I'm not used to speaking to college kids. I'm used to speaking to high school students and college graduates. And I hope we have hundreds of college graduates here next weekend for our big reunions. So the idea of giving you nuggets of advice about what college will be like once you get your Williston diploma, well, I think that ship has sailed. You should all be telling us what you've learned and how Williston can change and adapt to better prepare you for the lives that you have in college and going forward. So I'm really looking forward to those conversations. So I'm flipping the script, and I looked at what a few of your colleges and universities have done in the last couple weeks for their commencement speakers and what they had to say, what you guys would hear if you were at your own college or university. So Sarah Kimmel, the Middlebury alumnus who spoke, told the audience that he got rejected from every college to which he applied, even the one where his mother was the dean. And then he got off the wait list at Middlebury College, and I'm pretty sure he must be a successful person or he would not have been the keynote speaker. His message offered hope for all underachievers out there. Ana Rosario's college, Pomona, had a pretty cool graduate give their commencement address, the college's first ever Nobel laureate, a female scientist who essentially invented CRISPR. She said college was where she learned that she could be a researcher seeking knowledge that had no right answer. If that's your takeaway from your college experience, that there's value in intellectual pursuit for its own sake, that seems like a pretty good nugget of wisdom to me. Nat Markey, beyond cursing in the opening of her remarks, which I have to wonder how that went over down at Yale, and then acknowledging that most in the audience had never heard of her, your university speaker gave a homily about the importance of not being an overachiever to a few thousand overachievers. Maddie Cardassi at Boston University, you would have heard the journalist and author Bob Woodward say that he did not know what he was going to do after graduation, and that being disappointed in yourself is not really that fun, and that he wound up taking a circuitous route to the Washington Post and to become perhaps the most famous journalist in our history. He said, don't be in a hurry to do what might turn out to be the wrong thing in your life. If you stuck around Johns Hopkins, Ken Wong, you would have heard the diplomat Samantha Powers say that the end of college often feels as if it comes along too soon. I actually think that's a pretty accurate sentiment. And Sebastian Santelises and Finley McDonald, I can't tell you how amazing the speaker at Union College was for graduation this year, because graduation's not until next week. But today, 2020, the first class in 181 years to be honored in a special ceremony back to a place where we know a lot of learning and growing, laughter and tears occurred under the watchful and true gaze of the symbolic elm tree. We celebrate you. As is always the case with the passage of time, even relatively brief bursts in the quantum days of your youth, quite a bit has changed on campus. From the new tennis courts out at Galbraith to the new bridge and terrace in front of the MEMS, you'll notice that your alma mater is not the same as it was just 2 years ago. Time does not stand still. Samantha Powers was right. And often, when we look back, it seems as if chunks of our lives pass really quickly. So I'm truly glad that you're back to share today with each other and with us and to fill in some of those gaps. So it's my pleasure now to welcome a familiar face, veteran teacher, coach, advisor, and mentor, Mr. Ken Chu, who's going to offer some remarks.
First off, standing before you, this is a great privilege. I hope you don't mind, but I've observed other addresses, and almost all of them I have observed seem to start off with some acknowledgments, so I do too. So I thank Headmaster Hill, who has navigated our school through the pandemic and the rise of the new academic quad, the dean's office, admissions team, college counseling staff, advancement team, business office, tech office, and athletic departments, including Deans Talea, Noble, Fogg, Chambers, Kortkowski, Davey, Garrity, Dietrich, McDowell, McGraw, Yates, Shelfo, McCullough, and Conroy, and the rest of the staff who make tough calls every week that allow every day to happen. The board for keeping an eye on the big picture. The teachers, my peers, many of whom I now find are closer in age to you, the graduates, than to myself. The physical plant, dining staff, and security staff, whose work is exemplary and thus almost invisible. My family, my wife Bridget, who has slowly but surely replaced most of my clothing choices with more suitable attire. My son and daughter, Jack and Mary, who are teaching me more than I them. And the families of you before me, whose love and sacrifice I cannot fathom. So you, the class of 2020, who return to these grounds yet again, for whom this day is for, what should an address like this actually address? This question, what to say to you, is a conundrum. I could give you advice, but that is a dubious endeavor. While I'm convinced that older people might be wiser, I also think that a lot of that wisdom came from making mistakes, and this has oftentimes been the case for me. Telling a graduate such as yourself, do this, avoid doing that, when doing or not doing, is exactly how one finds out the absolute darkness of heartbreak, or the mouthful of bitterness that is disappointment, or the levitating sensation that is a hard-earned success, or the brightening of skies that is falling in love. Those choices are the fuel for true wisdom, more so than me telling you. In addition, different situations call upon different approaches that in turn depend upon your strengths and weaknesses. Many of my colleagues could speak more eloquently than myself on the difference one student can make on class dynamics. No, I'm not so sure that giving advice is the route that I can personally take today. Maybe instead, I could celebrate your present-day endeavors. I called several of you over the past few days. Some of you do not have voicemail boxes set up yet. Some of you stay silent, waiting to see if the call is from a telemarketer. Some of you sounded like you were at a party, some at a beach. Some of you answered me by name like it was no big deal, having my contact information still in your cell phone. I called because this gathering is 2 years delayed. I wanted to feel that connection with you again. Your voices stirred visceral memories within me, not of how you did on your homework or how you performed on tests, but of familiarity, of laughter and kindness and silliness and youthful vigor of years past, of a teacher's pride in students now adults. You are studying at universities and colleges, working at jobs and making money, researching at labs, making friends, getting internships, volunteering for causes, moving to different places, living on your own, declaring majors, making plans for the future, getting into trouble. Maybe instead, we should acknowledge your past achievements during your time on this campus. 5 teams qualified for NEPSAC tournaments, and the boys and girls swim team went undefeated. Nat Markey set our course record for boys cross country. NEPSAC champions were crowned during, including William, Sam, Connor, Shogo, and Molly. End-of-year awards and prizes for academics, athletics, citizenship, and leadership were earned by Sam and Nick, Dylan and Maddie, Nat and Steven, Sarah and Eric, Lila and Nina, Bree and Jason, Jack and Annie and Anna. There was the fall play, the dance concert, singing and ensemble concerts. You were Wilson scholars, or proctors, or tutors, or mentors, or guides, or good friends. Past achievements, present-day endeavors, future advice. Instead of speaking on any of these topics today, I would like to share a personal reflection of one particular life. My dear friend Paul Louiscart died this year. Some of you knew him personally, perhaps as 7th graders in his middle school science class. I knew Paul for 17 years, so what facts could I tell you about him? In those 17 years, he shared his home with 6 dogs, 4 snakes, one of whom my wife has adopted and now resides in our dining room, 1 snapping turtle procured from a batch right here next to the Wilson Pond, 1 frog that spent the entirety of its life living underground so I never saw it, dozens of geckos and lizards, 2 rescued squirrels, one of whom ran from one of my hands across my shoulder to my other hand every time I tried to turn my head to look at it. Paul could stack 27 dishes and bowls on top of each other in the sink to avoid washing them. Twice a year, he would correct my understanding of scientific principles, and not too gently, but with a passion that screamed, "This is important." I can extrapolate information from his life to make estimates. After introducing him to the dish bulgogi, he ate the meal almost every week. A half-pound eaten for 52 weeks for 17 years, leading me to conclude that he consumed 442 pounds of it. He was a voracious reader. An estimate of 3 read books a week seems like an underestimation. 3 books read every week for 52 weeks for 17 years indicates that in the time I knew him, he read 2,652 books. But of course, the numbers and extrapolations could not tell you the whole story. He was the one who held me up when I was in despair because one of my family members was struggling with an illness. My family camper was perpetually parked on his property in Vermont for the past 2 years, where my family would spend the summers hiking, swimming, fishing, playing fetch with dogs, building fires, sharing meals. My son's 12th birthday was on his property. 4 friends suddenly out of contact because of a pandemic, screaming and leaping into a pond, reinforcing what very well may be lifelong bonds. My daughter's 11th birthday was held too. He would frequently tell me he loved me, and who doesn't need to hear that? My Veracross password is one of Paul's dogs' names. I complained about 2 screeching raccoons outside of my then apartment above Health and Wellness. He responded by writing a splendid piece on their beauty and the ultimate cuteness of baby raccoons. He once woke Bridget and me up at an ungodly hour to go fishing in the dark. He unabashedly cried while talking about his time living in Sierra Leone, once within the first week of meeting me. When we first met, I was new to the ways of Williston, hadn't coached a lick, was shearing street signs off in front of the athletic center from their bases as I drove the minibus. Overwhelmed as I figured out the tempo of this place with its dash from classes to advising, to dorm duty, to activity duty, to phone calls, to parents, to meetings. He encouraged, scolded, cursed, hugged, hiked, laughed, advised, guided, shared his own missteps. He pulled for me. He invested in me until I understood more clearly it's not always about being easy or always being right or how you look. It's about being there for another human being, being vulnerable in front of somebody else and letting them be vulnerable back, arguing wholeheartedly, mending your relationship, then arguing again. I don't tell you any of this to advise you what to do. These were my experiences and my feelings and my musings of a lost friend. But I want you to know, Paul was exactly what I needed to survive and thrive here. You all have your people, your stories. I want you to know that you are exactly what we, the world, needs. We need individuals who are forged and privileged by a past in this institution, who have learned and strive to understand the world in unique ways. We need individuals who are achieving now, deepening their expertise, their endurance to work hard, their ability to communicate, ability to empathetically lend support. We need individuals not bound by a single piece of advice, but adaptable to different environments, who have interacted with unique communities, with different perspectives, with experience in different circumstances, who have succeeded and failed in different ways, who have fresh approaches. You are exactly who we need to face this world, emerging from a pandemic and fearful of another, with racial divides that seem to spurn every attempt to heal and reunite, in a world in which the rich and poor are separated by a gap impossibly gaping. You are exactly who we need, each and every one of you, in every circumstance, just as you are. And so my final words to you are thank you. Thank you, graduating class of 2020. Thank you for honing your minds so that your contribution, however small or large, allows for the next great leap in scientific discovery or deepens the discourse in matters of profound importance. Thank you for traveling the world so that you can speak up for those who are voiceless, hungry, impoverished. Thank you for experiencing heartbreak or doubt or racism or sexism so that you can hold up those who are hurt too. Thank you, each and every one of you, for being exactly who this world needs. I have the honor of introducing Eric Albanese as the next speaker today. I know him as a student who sang purposefully out of tune in tenor chorus so that his fellow singers would be encouraged to take risks. I also know him as a student who never accepted knowledge as presented, but instead asked questions. Why does this occur when it does? What about in this circumstance? What if we changed this small aspect of the situation? What now? What if we changed everything? What now? What if we changed the situation and looked at it from a different perspective? Please welcome your next speaker, your fellow 2020 graduate, Eric Albanese.
Didn't slip this time. Okay. That was a beautiful speech. Can we have another round of applause for that? That was fantastic. Hi. So welcome to this belated graduation / early reunion thing. Grad, reunion, re-graduation? Grad union. I like the last one. It's really nice to see you all here. I missed you guys. And if you didn't miss me, no worries. Jason's the only one who's contractually obligated, so no judgments. Before I continue, I want to say thanks on behalf of the class of 2020. So thank you for making this happen. Thank you, faculty and staff, for your guidance, parents for your love, and fellow classmates for showing up. There isn't a better set of people I'd rather have spent my 4-ish years with. We learned a lot during our time at Williston. Every historical fact, integral, key signature, French vocab word, redox reaction, or rhetorical device we learned is now the tools, the raw materials for our future. And to the teachers who taught us these, we are grateful. However, what may be even more important than the raw information was the lessons we learned along the way. And to the people who taught us these, we are forever grateful. You know, it has been 2 years since we've had the pleasure of each other's company. During that time, the usual and the unusual swapped and blurred while our sense of agency was ripped from us. As grad union approached, it had me thinking, and I know it's not a long period of time, but I was wondering that if we saw each other today, would be recognizable in appearance or character, and perhaps some change in both respects has happened. Everyone's a bit more fashionable, some people can grow better beards, and if nothing else, everyone's eyes is a bit more like jaded or discerning if you're a glass half full kind of person. You know, to be honest, I've found that to be a necessary trait in today's world. Not foolish optimism, but tenacious hope. I am not going to lie to you guys about my feelings. The world seems like it is on fire, and it scares the shit out of me. It feels daunting to set up our futures while the foundation on which we stand is so shaky. But I also think it's important to remember that our set of struggles is unique, but struggles are not. So yes, we grew up in the shadow of 9/11 with gun violence, growing polarization of the country, the presence of climate change, and graduated just in time for a pandemic. It's a lot of weight. Yet, anybody with 2 cents worth of wisdom can tell you that now is unequivocally the best time to be alive in history. We can make a vaccine in a year and a half. We have the answer to almost any question you could ask in your pocket. We can order just about anything we want with a click of a button, and we can talk to each other while lying on the couch and on opposite sides of the planet. So, what does that actually mean for us? It shows us that in the midst of turmoil, we can move towards a better future. Moreover, we must keep in mind this hope as an impetus for our actions. In other words, this is the lot we have been given. We must pay for progress with our time and effort, spurred by hope. Of course, this then begs, well, what about the times I just can't muster enough? Or what if I'm plenty hopeful, but I can't take certain actions on my own? I'm sure many of you realize where I'm going with this. The answer is all around you. The class of 2020. Although on separate journeys, we will continue to inspire one another. Let's be real, guys. Nobody is here, except maybe my mom and dad, hi, to hear me ramble on stage. Everyone who is here came to see you. You students, you faculty, you families, every one of you. You all shared a significant journey together. You gave feedback and support, not just through edits, but social cues, debates, a smile and a head nod as you're walking, and it's kind of like a weird distance. Everything was done because you cared, and people care about you. The proof is in the pudding. Look around at this rare occasion, this beautiful occasion. We're in a safe place with birds chirping and a large group of people who just want to spend time together. It's the antithesis of the chaos and separation we've endured these past few years. And it's a reminder of what's worth fighting for. You. Us. Why though? What specifically about you is so dang appealing? Why did so many people feel so compelled to travel to this quad, listen to a great speech by Mr. Chu, and then endure my ideological barrage? Well, the short answer is that we are a special class of special people. But I went through enough essays at Williston to know that that's not a satisfactory response. So maybe a more specific answer will do. I could say we were a particularly bright class, hardworking and amicable. We complained when things were tough, but we deeply understood that that challenge was what would make us strong. Okay, so the English teachers still don't look like they're loving this, so let me try to point out one key feature that the class of 2020 had that allowed us to form these bonds that brought everybody back. It was our cross-pollination. Many of us were multifaceted athletes, scholars, and artists. We would go from the fields to the courts or the pool to making pottery or music, poetry, and plays. We acted as the role models for each other, showing that you can build a healthy body and a healthy mind, not just a smart one. This was so important in creating the environment we grew up in because it meant every group on campus supported each other. We did not fall victim to stratification, but instead surpassed it. Athletes would go to their teammates' performances or art exhibitions, and dancers would cheer on their ensemble members at Galbraith. In other words, maintaining an artist-athlete duality was what made Williston great. We had diverse skills and a unified compassion. We cannot let this go in our adulthood. Nor should we let the bonds that created this environment fade. They proved themselves strong so far. We're a special class of special people. So let's keep it that way. Now, hold on a minute. You all are looking at me right now. So, stop. No, like seriously, like stop looking at me for a second. Now, Eric, you silly goose, you. I hear you thinking, deeply entranced in this bit. Dude, you're on stage. Where else should I look? Everywhere. I want you to take a good look to your right. Nat, parents. Okay, now look to your left. Everybody, look to your left. Kenny, left. Thank you, Kenny. Okay, what about behind you? We are in the rare, ephemeral occasion where we are surrounded by people who not only chose to be here, but did so with the explicit hope that you would be here too. So it may be a little challenging, but be in the moment, be here, be present. It doesn't matter how accomplished we become if we never stop to appreciate the gift that is now. So I asked you, when was the last time you just sat and looked around, undistracted, actively feeling the breath in your lungs, or perhaps your feet and your hands at the same time? In other words, when was the last time that you, in your whole capacity, experienced now? I have some more questions. If we are never truly in the present, are we even alive? Or are we just memory machines, collecting experiences like seashells, tucking them away for later when they'll be fun to look at? I know this sounds weird or cheesy, but take the awareness of your immediate surroundings, the idea that everyone is experiencing the same second as you in a completely unique way, left, right, behind. It's like picking up a weight with your brain. I find it hard, but try to settle your mind. No plans for later, no past, no inner monologue. Just be here. In the erudite words of SpongeBob SquarePants. Are you feeling it now, Mr. Krabs? I'll end with this. A tradition we missed out on was the final ringing of the Angelus bell. Customarily, it was partnered with a quick speech about its history, to which I remember a little, but not enough to recite here. So, I'll say this. It's a chance to recenter oneself before accepting the full responsibility of adulthood. So, let's all take a second and listen to the Angelus bell. I promised my brother, the other one, that I would say this. It came to him in a dream last August while he was processing his entire childhood. The phrase I'm about to say is, patience is kind but not loving. Thanks, everybody.
Eric, the only thing worse than following Ken Chu is following you. And I wish I'd come up with grad union. I mean, that's really classic. So, we just had two amazing speeches. So, thank you, Chalbanese. Nat, I guess you're up with Casey. We're going to have the unveiling of the fence. Come on up, guys. So, the cool thing about this is it's really kind of the symbolic, manifestation of your class taking its place alongside the other 181 years. And I think the fence tradition started over 100 years ago for the then 75th anniversary of the school. So go ahead, you guys, let's rip it open. Take a look. Eric was talking about connections and connectedness, and then he pulled out his phone and said, we have all the answers we want right here. You also have all the connections right there as well. So with over 10,000 Williston alumni throughout the globe, you really can't go anywhere without finding one of you. And so please do, and it's all connected right here. So congratulations to you all, and let's move along here. I think we're at lunch now, Mr. Yates, or where are we? Lunch, you? Great. Thanks, guys.